Hi everyone and welcome to the session. I'm Danny Moss and I'm a professional development staff officer, and this session is called The Science of Creating Effective Learning Materials with Dual Coding. So we teach and learn with slide content all the time as educators, but did you know that the way you design those slides and teach with them can drastically impact the ability for students to learn? What's worse, if they're not designed properly, it can actually inhibit learning. So in this session, we're going to take a look at some really easy to implement strategies that can make your slides far more effective. Kind of look for things to avoid. You'll be given lots of different resources to help you fix or design new slides. And I hope you enjoy the session. Thanks very much. For this session, I've created a collection of links with resources and files. It's in wakelet.com and you can click that link. It's in the YouTube session description, or you can use your smartphone and scan the QR code if you prefer. That'll give you everything that we're going to look at here today in the session. So you're welcome to go ahead and use that if you wish to. All right, so how we design and instruct with multimedia such as slides can really have a huge impact on students' ability to learn new things. So, this isn't brand new information to most teachers. I think intuitively many of us know that visuals help in the verbal or text-based teaching that we're doing. But the reason it can work may surprise many people. Now look, even when I started teaching almost 30 years ago, we started hearing about learning styles, and it really became pervasive in education. And there is a widely held belief in this learning styles theory that has been pervasive for decades, that learners have a style of learning that yields higher learning gains over another, such as visual, auditory, or kinesthetic. And then as an educator, by providing all three pathways, the learner chooses the best path for their learning style. The problem is that this theory is completely a myth, and it's been debunked for many, many years now. So how then do people learn with visuals and words? Well, what has been proven by cognitive science is the dual coding theory. So here's how it works. All right, here's how it works. We've got a working memory. It's our conscious mind that can take things in from our surrounding. We pay attention to certain things, we process them, we actively make sense of that information. Okay, it's limited in scope, that working memory, and in processing we create new ideas or schema in our minds, or we connect to things we already know, prior knowledge. Okay. As I said, working memory is quite limited, and it can hold about 4 to 7 things maximum, or like 10 to 15 seconds, unless we do something with it. So think of it like a container with a limited amount of storage, like a cup or a box. So one example of working memory is when you're listening to a story and you're actively processing the story elements in real time, while at the same time remembering and sequencing earlier parts of the story. Another example of working memory is when you're making sense of new information by connecting it to background knowledge in your long-term memory. Okay. Now, the amount of working memory that's being used is called your cognitive load. Okay, let's do a cognitive load experiment together. Okay, I'm going to list off some random letters. Okay, and I'd like you to try to remember and hold on to as many of those as possible. Now, I'm also going to throw some other things at you to try to process in addition to that, okay? But you're going to try to remember these letters, okay? Ready? Okay, here we go. Y, R, O, M, E, M. What's 23 times 8? Take your right hand and touch your index finger to your thumb. What are the last 5 letters of the alphabet, starting with Z? All right. Johnny Depp for good measure in there, just to throw you off a little bit. You ready? How many of those letters can you remember? And another question, how are you trying to remember them? Did any of you hit kind of cognitive overload? If so, what made it difficult? Maybe it was the other things thrown in there after the letters. Maybe it was the image, Captain Jack Sparrow, whatever it was. Some of you may have hung on to all 6 or 5 or 4, but for many of us, it kind of overloads our cognitive load and our working memory. Okay, so here is the theory. And this is a great graphic by a really smart guy named Oliver Caviglioli. He's written a book on this, but he's got some great free materials as well. I'll share with you a little bit later in the session. So how is it that we learn exactly? Well, okay, as I mentioned before, here's how it goes. We take in information from the environment. Okay, we process them in our working memory. We build new schema and we connect that information to schema we already have in that sense-making process. And then it goes into long-term memory, which has unlimited storage. Now, unfortunately, we start to immediately forget those things in long-term memory unless we actively process them. So that's how it works. Now let's talk about dual coding theory specifically. When students are learning new things, okay, we see that visual stimuli on the left side there. When things are coming in, when students are learning new information, the new information and ideas can be processed primarily in 2 channels. Okay, there's an auditory channel, and that's such as written words that they're reading to themselves or spoken words. And there's also, in addition to that auditory channel, there's a visual channel. That's such as images or diagrams or physical models. All right. Now the auditory channel, it's kind of encoded in a linear fashion. Okay, you see the kind of the metaphor of an analog kind of tape recorder. Anybody remembers that? So it's kind of encoded in linear fashion as we speak or read the words one after another. Okay. Now with the visual channel, on the other hand, a lot of information can be coded at the same time. You're looking at an image or a video diagram. A lot of it can be encoded into your brain at the exact same time. So we've got the auditory channel on the one side that's recording sequentially, and then we've got the visual channel where lots of stuff is coming in at once. Okay, both being imprinted on 2 different channels. And so we call this dual coding. All right. And not only does dual coding help students understand more effectively, but it also gives them kind of 2 ways to remember and understand the information. So let's come back to that letter remembering activity, a cognitive load activity. I'm going to once again list off some random letters, and I'd like you to try to hang on to them, again, as many as possible. I'm going to give you some visuals this time. Okay, you ready? Y, R, O, M, E, M. What's the 7th letter of the alphabet? What's 30% of 8? Okay, you ready? How many of those letters do you still have in your working memory? Was it any easier to remember this time? Maybe a little bit, hey? The visuals probably helped out a little bit. All right, stick with me here. I'm doing this for a reason. We're going to try the letters one last time. And the purpose of this activity is to make another key point about our working memory and cognitive load. All right? Kind of relates to how we design slides and things like that. So I appreciate you sticking with me here. It might seem a little strange. All right, we're going to do this activity one more time with the letters. You ready? Here we go. M, E, M, O, R, Y. All right, some of you probably figured it out. So that was much easier to remember this time, wasn't it? I put them in sequence, and you could probably halfway through the word, maybe a little bit further, you could realize that I was giving the letters of the word memory, okay? And this time the task is much easier for a couple of reasons. And one of the big reasons that that was a lot easier is that when we recognize the word memory, we're only holding on to one item in mind, not six, okay? We also have a schema in our long-term memory about what the word memory means. So our working memory easily accesses all that and still has plenty of other resources to work with, all right? Okay, so I invite you, if you wish to take a moment and just reflect, pause the video, and just pause. If you like, in the Wakelet collection, I've got sort of a learning guide. And what we're going to do is an activity to try to recall. The act of recalling things you've learned is called retrieval practice. And actually, it can help you learn things more deeply when you're just trying to remember something, okay? So just pause for a moment. We've talked about learning styles. We've talked about working memory. We've talked about cognitive load. We've talked about dual coding thus far, okay? So there is a link in the Wakelet to a Google Doc if you'd like. I challenge you to pause for just a few minutes and try to jot down from your memory what you recall are some key ideas about each of these few concepts we've talked about thus far. Okay, I hope you took a moment to reflect. It'll help you learn things and remember things a little bit more. And let's move on. So we've got a kind of a basis of knowledge about the learning process and a little bit of information about what dual coding theory means. So let's learn a little bit more in depth about dual coding and how to design slides for dual coding, okay? Now, when we create slides of materials for students in our instruction, this seems like the perfect tool to create dual coding learning materials, right? In Google Slides or PowerPoint, we create visuals and words on a slide, and it actually is an awesome, awesome tool for that. However, there are some very specific strategies in which we can design and deliver these slides that can really make or break learning. Okay, so next we're going to look at some very important things to do and some things to avoid in your slide design in order to maximize learning of new ideas. Okay, you ready? Here we go. All right. First of all, a really key idea, written and spoken words do not mix. Okay, if you are planning on verbally explaining the ideas on your slides to students as you teach, keep the words to your slides at an absolute minimum, like a key word or a short phrase. So the reason for this is that when students are reading words, they're also kind of hearing a narrator reading it in their head. Can anybody hear Matthew McConaughey's voice right now? How about Cuba Gooding Jr.'s voice? I don't know if you're old enough or remember this movie. One more. How about Heath Ledger's voice? All right, so here's the big idea with what I just mentioned. If you were talking at the same time and explaining things, plus there's a lot of words on the slide, the students have to split their attention between what you're saying and what they're reading. Remember, they've got a little narrator as they read. They've got a little narrator. They can hear themselves in their mind. It's like trying to listen to two people talk at the same time. And this adds more to the cognitive load, and it distracts the learner as well, okay? So I know that when many teachers design slides, they're not only doing it for the moment, but they're doing it for later on when the students want to or need to access those slides as a study material. Okay, so by just putting a keyword or phrase, maybe it's not enough for later study. Okay, so if you feel like you need the text in the slides for when students need to access it later, put the full text in the slide notes so that students can read it back to themselves later on by themselves. Okay. Now, if you need a phrase or a definition on the slide, sometimes you actually need a full sentence or even a paragraph on the slide. If that's the case, pause when you're showing the slide to let students read it without you talking. Okay? So while the visual and auditory channels can encode at the same time, 2 auditory channels cannot. All right. Here's another big idea. We often like to include GIFs, and yes, I said GIFs, not GIFs, and memes to kind of make learning memorable and fun and interesting, but it actually can hurt learning, believe it or not. Funny memes, animated GIFs, or even Bitmojis can increase the fun factor. The only problem that can arise with overdoing this is that it can really distract the learner, okay? It's called seductive details. Remember, learners have very limited resources in their working memory or cognitive load. So the risk with adding these elements to the slide are that not directly about what you're learning about, that will either split the learner's attention between the content and the funny element, or worse yet, that the student will remember more the funny element than what you taught them. Okay? So cognitive scientists, again, call this seductive details, and you should exercise a lot of caution when adding these types of elements. Any visuals and words should very tightly match what you're trying to teach them. And for more information, I've got a link in the Wakelet, a really awesome podcast episode from the learning scientist called Bite-Size Research on Seductive Details. It's about a 15-minute listen. There's also a blog post that goes with it if you prefer to read about it than listen, but it really goes in a bit more detail about seductive details and how they can be destructive to student learning. So use them cautiously. All right, I've also got a link in here. That's Oliver Caviglioli, the guy I mentioned to you. He wrote a book on dual coding. He's also given a really great, well, 5-minute video. And I've got a link in the Wakelet that I'd really encourage you to just pause this video and go watch Oliver Caviglioli's video. It's on a website called futurelearn.com, and just watch that video. And he offers 4 basic guidelines for developing great slides for students learning new things. Okay, and those guidelines are cut, chunk, align, and restrain. Okay, here's what they mean. First of all, cut. Cut the amount of content you'd intended to share on your slide to only what's essential for learning. Okay, you can make more slides if you need to, but don't try to jam too much in on one slide. Secondly, chunk. Instead of full sentences or slides with multiple ideas, break the learning down into bite-sized chunks that a student can easily process without cognitive overload. And then move on to the next. Align. Okay, this one may seem strange. He even apologizes for it in the video. But just aligning the columns of words and sort of aligning your slide in an orderly fashion sort of gives order to the work, which cognitively makes it a little bit easier for students to focus on. Okay. And fourth, restrain. Minimize the number of different fonts and colors as well. Okay, so try not to change things up too much. It might just throw people, even a little bit. It can affect their attention and their ability to focus. Okay, so it kind of makes sense. And those are 4 pieces of great advice from Oliver. As I said, if you want, you can watch that video, but that's essentially the big 4 ideas. Now, coming up in a little while, I'm going to provide you with some options and to really apply what you've learned thus far in this session to some existing or new slides. You'll have lots of choices to try to improve those slides based on what you've learned. Let's take a moment. I invite you to pause the video if you wish, return to your learning guide, and look for a few of those items on your learning guide, different concepts, and just jot down from memory some key ideas related to that, and just return to the video whenever you're ready. Okay, so let's take a look at some free resources to help. We're going to fill your loot bag here with resources to find rich images or icons. We've got some tools to record audio in your slides if you need it. Some free eye-catching slide templates, and how to find loads and loads of great-looking free fonts. All right. This is a Google Slides add-on called Free Icons. And as you can see from the screenshot, when you install this, you now open up that add-on and you've got access to a whole bunch of cool free icons. It's called Free Icons, believe it or not, this good name for it, that you can add to your slides. So with minimal words, you can now add some really nice eye-catching icons.
All right, so if you want to add some add-ons such as the ones I've been sharing here, I've given you the direct link to the free icons one, where you can just choose the install button and then go through the process as it asks for your confirmation in your Google account for that. But once you've got it installed, you can just refresh your Google Slides if you've got one open already. Go to the add-ons menu, and you should now see it show up, free icons. Choose start, and now it's going to pop up on the right side of your screen. And it's a little sidebar that opens up. Here are the free icons, photos, illustrations, and at whatever point you feel like you want one of those icons, you select it, and basically there it pops onto your screen. And again, you can choose different colors for that. And yeah, lots of different categories of different free icons you can add into your slides.
Here's another one. It's called Insert Icons for Slides. Again, when you install this, you now open up that add-ons page and you can install some nice eye-catching icons. What I like about this is that you can also choose which color those icons will be, such that it can match the rest of your slide. So this is a great add-on as well for Google Slides called Unsplash Images. And I mean, they have a website for Unsplash Images if you Google that. But what's nice is if you're using Google Slides to create your slides, this Google Slides add-on, when you click on add-ons and then Unsplash Images, now opens it up in a sidebar, and you can search for these free, copyright-free, gorgeous background images to fill your slides and just insert them right from within Google Slides without having to leave or bother, go through the download process, etc. Now, if you need to change, what you may notice if you start changing colors of different icons or different other things, at a certain point you may be asked for sort of web-based colors have a special code or number, and they're kind of recorded in a couple of different ways. This is called a hex code. It's the pound symbol and then approximately 6 letters and numbers together, and they've got a code for every single color you can imagine. This is also RGB, so the amount of red, there's a number for green and a number for blue. So however you're invited to switch the color of your picture, you can, how this ColorZilla works is that if you're on a web page and you want to know exactly what color that particular red is, You click on the particular extension in your browser, and then it will open up this little, almost like a, looks like a medicine dropper of some kind icon. And wherever you hover over, if I hover my mouse right over here, it will show you the exact RGB numbers and the hex code. If you just click it, it'll kind of save it in that extension, and then you can use it. So if you're using that icons, insert icons, for example, and they need to know what color you want your icon to be, you can just copy and paste that hex code from the extension back in there, and then you've got the exact color to match.
All right, here's a quick demo of ColorZilla. Here it is up here, my little eyedropper there. Now here is how it works. Let's say I want to insert an icon here, but I want it to be the same color of gold that's just on the side of my slide here. I need to be able to change this color, not to one of those, but a custom color. See that little hex code right there? I need to find the hex code for that gold. So I go to ColorZilla, page color picker. All right, there it is. I go down, I click on that, and aha, there it is. Copy to the clipboard even, that particular color. So I go to the custom here, and I just go in here and I choose Control V to paste. And there it is, B39352. And I hit OK. So now all my icons are that color, and when I click on that particular icon, and there it is. That icon is the same color as that gold, and that is how ColorZilla works. Saves you a lot of time.
Many teachers enjoy using the Bitmoji extension, where if you have the Bitmoji app on your smartphone and you're signed into an account and you've created a Bitmoji that looks kind of like a cartoon version of you, you can open it right from this Chrome extension and have you in various poses. And it can be a fun way to add a visual element onto your slides. Use Bitmoji carefully, because if you overuse it, again, it could become a seductive detail to take kids' attention away. So don't use them very often. And don't ask students to invite this or install this extension, because there are some inappropriate Bitmoji. So it's only for teacher use, what I strongly recommend. Now, Google Slides, if you have slides filled with rich images or icons and you'd like to, instead of just adding a bunch of text in the slide notes for students later, if you want to record, you kind of have your voice in there like an audio recording, you can now add that in through the insert menu. Google Slides allows you to insert audio files. Now it is a bit tricky because Google doesn't yet have a slide recording feature or an audio recording feature built in like PowerPoint does. Now, so if you're using PowerPoint, you're good to go. But if you're using Google Slides, you're going to need to find a different way to record that audio. One way is through this website, onlinevoicerecorder.com. It's online-voice-recorder.com. I've got it in the Wakelet collection, okay? What's handy about Online Voice Recorder is that right through your web browser, you can instantly record and download an audio file. So you just go to this website, you hit record, you record what you want, you hit stop, and then download. Done. No accounts, no nothing. Okay. Now the next step in getting it into your Google Slides is kind of challenging. So let me demonstrate how that works. But let me just warn you, there is also a very, very much easier way, and I'm going to show you with the next tool here. But here's how you do this with online voice recorder and an audio file getting it into your slides.
Okay, here's the process for recording audio using onlinevoicerecorder.com and then getting it into your Google Slide. You ready? So you visit the website. It's as simple as hitting this record button. Now, if you haven't been here before, your web browser is going to give you a little warning saying, hey, this website wants to use your mic. Are you okay with that? And then you're going to choose allow. I'm just going to hit it. Here we go. All right, this is my voice recording. I can even see the waveforms right on my screen. Super cool. Hit stop, it processes. I hit save, and now it just downloads it. Okay, so I just open up that little folder. All right, so there is my file, my recording right there. So what I need to now do is get it into my Google Drive first. Okay, that's not all. I've got to get it into a folder, and I got to set the permissions for that audio file such that other people can have access to it. Otherwise, they won't be able to hear the file. So, in my Google Drive, I want to make a new folder. And rather than give permissions to every single file I put in, I'm just going to create a folder. I'll call it audio. And what I'm going to do with this audio folder is I'm going to change the link sharing on that such that anybody with the link can view. Right now it's restricted. So if I tried to put my audio file in there and then put it in my Google Slide, it may not play for people. So same thing works with video files. So I'm going to change it. Anyone with a link can view. Okay, viewer only. You see the little person icon next to your Google Drive? Okay. Now, where is that file? Well, it is right here. I'm going to open up my audio folder, and then I can either use this new and then go file upload, but I'm just going to save myself a little bit of time, and I'm going to drag this onto the screen, drag and drop. And there it comes uploading. There's my audio recording that I just recorded. And because this whole folder has sharing permissions for anybody with the link can view, now any files that I put in here will be listenable by anyone. Make sense? All right, I'm going to go back to my slides, and now I'm going to do the insert menu, audio, and here is the most recent one. Check it out. But I'm just going to go to my Google Drive here. All right, there it is. So I'm just going to select it, and there we are. And what will happen is it will now show up as a little audio file in here. All right, this is my voice recording. I can even see the waveforms right. That's the one that I just recorded. So it's a little bit of a process, but it is certainly possible. Now, for a much easier way to do this, stay tuned, because the next tool I'm going to share with you makes this process a whole lot more automated.
All right, now that was challenging to get your audio into your slides. Here is what I would recommend as a much easier way to do it. There is an extension in Chrome called Mote. Okay, and I've got the link in the, you can go to mote.com to find it, or you can look in the Wakelet, and I've got it in there. So it is an extension for Chrome that offers audio recording, and for all your Google apps. So including Google Slides, Docs, Sheets, even Google Classroom. Okay. Now it has other features too, such as the ability for students to respond with audio. Now, what I like most about Mote for Google Slides is that it is how you use it with Google Slides only. I wouldn't recommend you use it with other applications, because it stores the audio on Mote servers. If students want to record, they now need to install the extension. It can get complex really fast, and there can be some privacy issues. But what I like most about Mote for Google Slides is that when you record audio in Google Slides, you hit a button. I'll demonstrate it here in a moment, but long story short, it saves that audio recording in your Google Drive, and it creates itself a new folder called Mote Audio. and then it just pops it right into your slide. It couldn't be easier. So teachers recording audio into Google Slides, love it. Beyond that, I wouldn't use it personally, but that's certainly up to you. Here's a demonstration.
All right, the Mote recorder is super awesome. You can visit mote.com to install that in your Chrome browser, or if you have the new Edge browser like I have. It will look like this icon up here in the upper right. It's kind of purple, and it makes it so easy. Once you go through the permissions, you simply hit the Mote button. You're given the opportunity to start recording. You record away. Note you have only 30 seconds to record. Hit OK. It'll give you a little preview. You can play it, listen back. If you don't like it, hit the trash can. But if you like it, hit insert. It is now uploading into your Google Drive. And then it's inserting it right on your page. And you get a little play button there. So I can put as many of these 30-second clips as I want. So it's a great way to add some audio support to your slides and really fast. Now I only recommend you use Mote for this purpose of in your Google Slides. Any other use that I'm aware of Mote, let's say Google Classroom or Google Docs, will save the audio on Mote servers. So you may want to talk to your school division if you want to go down that path in terms of privacy, but no harm in using this with Google Slides because it just lets you record directly to your Google Drive. And that is Mote.
All right, many of you have seen this website, but if you haven't, slidesmania.com is a fabulous free website that offers students and teachers stunning free Google Slides and PowerPoint templates, okay? These are great not only for presentations, but they also have loads of other templates for morning messages, digital portfolios, project work, games, and more. It's an outstanding website. Here's a quick look.
All right, so here's slidesmania.com. It's really awesome. There are loads of different templates you can download, and they have for education, they've got interactive templates, notebook style, games, choice boards. So here's an example. Please note that there are ads on here, but Paula does not charge for her. Just an individual person who runs this website out of her own pocket. So anyways, yeah, if you find a template that you like, that you want, she gives a description. In many cases, she gives a YouTube video. And then there's an embedded Google Slides where you can kind of see it in action, where you can see the interactivity and to be able to click on stuff. Hyperlinked around, you can download a PowerPoint or a Google Slides version. So if you want it, here's how it works. Choose Open in Google Slides, and this is going to come up with a Use Template up here. And so you'll just click on Use Template. Okay, and then it's basically going to make your own copy and open for you in Google Slides if you want to start from scratch. Now, if you wanted to apply an existing, let's go back to a different type of template. Let's go to a professional template, and let's say we want this one right here. All right, so I'm going to choose the opening Google Slides. Again, it's the template preview. So I'm going to have to choose Use Template. But let's say instead of starting from scratch, I want to apply this template that I've saved to a different Google Slides that I already have. Well, here's how you do that. So I'm going to go to a different presentation, and I'm going to go to the slide menu and choose Change Theme. Now, there are a few themes over here, but the one I just downloaded is not there. These are just Google ones. So I go to this button down here, Import Theme. All right, and from there, it's going to find different Google Slides presentations that I have just used. Okay, here's one, Twitch and Play, the one that I just downloaded. So it's now going to import that theme into my slide deck that I currently have here. And then it will change my current content. Check it out. Now I have the look of that other slide deck in this set of slides that I already have. So again, go to the slide templates, the slide theme page, and then choose import theme after you have downloaded the template from Slidesmania. But loads of great presentations, linked things, weekly planners, all sorts of stuff. Great templates, free for use at slidesmania.com.
SlidesGo.com is another free site for Google Slides and PowerPoint templates. Okay. Very similar to Slidesmania, not as focused on education, K-12 education, but still free, and another option if you just want to see more free slide templates out there. Okay, so you've learned some strategies now about how to design effective slides and things to avoid, right? We've learned all of our convigliolis, 4 specific strategies of cut, chunk, align, restrain. We learned about the rule where text and speaking at the same time don't mix, and we've learned about seductive details and how they can distract. So let's imagine a scenario that you're developing some slides for classroom instruction, and you'll be using your voice to kind of teach with those slides, okay? So you have some choices right now. So what I'd like you to do is take a moment, pause the video, and let's take some time to apply what we've learned to some sample slides, okay? Now I've got a sample Google Slides. It's in the Wayclick collection. If you click on that link, you'll be invited to make your own copy of those sample slides, and it just includes a few generic words on the screen. So you can take any one of those slides or more. I think I've got 4 sample slides, and try to apply some of what we learned to make that slide better. Just kind of challenge yourself to do that. Now, alternatively, you can pop open one of your own slide decks, and you can see if you can apply at least one new thing that we've learned today. Okay. Another option is you can just kind of build a brand new slide from scratch and about an upcoming topic or concept that you could teach in your teaching assignment. And by the way, if you want a really great shortcut for starting a new slide deck, if you're already signed into your Google account for your school, type in slides.new. Okay, slides.new. We'll open up a brand new slide deck, and you can use that little folder icon next to the title, and you can move it to the folder you want it to go in. But slides.new works with Google Docs too, by the way, and several other Google file types. So you've got some choices here, and I encourage you to take a few minutes and really apply what you've learned, and try to do it now while it's still kind of fresh in your brain before it kind of goes from that long-term memory and you start to forget it, okay? All right, before we go, I want to share with you some resources from fantastic experts in this field. Here are some really great resources. All right, I love Dr. Jared Cooney-Horvath because he has been a classroom teacher and a cognitive scientist. So he studied it from both ends. He's written a couple of good books. One I really love is called Stop Talking, Start Influencing. And in that book, he writes a whole chapter on the whole notion of words and speaking. Words on your slide and speaking at the same time just do not mix, and he gives the science behind that. So there's a link also to his website where there are some free videos and podcast episodes, fact sheets, etc. So I've got all of that in the Wakelet collection there. But he's a great guy to follow and listen to. And the book is a super easy read if you'd like to purchase the book. As I mentioned, Oliver Caviglioli has a great website, olliecav.com, with lots of free resources. He's also got a book for sale, so it's up to you. He's got some videos on YouTube as well. I've got the links in the Wakelet. This guy's name is Oliver Lovell, ollielovell.com. He's got a website. He's got a great podcast. He goes heavy duty into sort of the research in cognitive science. A little bit too academic for me, but he's written an awesome, really short, easy to read, practical book called Cognitive Load Theory in Action. And so it is, again, very easy, like 60-page read, lots of specific practices on how to adjust your teaching to manage student cognitive load. Now, as an aside, I also do another workshop, online presentation based on this book and some of the learnings around it. So if you'd like to bookmate your school or your local, your convention, your specialist council, what have you, I'd be happy to do that session for you in person when we're able to, or online. So I want to thank you so much for joining me here in this session. I hope you gained some practical strategies and some good resources, at least one good takeaway, if not multiple, on how you can design effective slides for student learning. It's not easy, and I really appreciate you joining me for this session. Thanks so much. If you want to contact me, there's my email address. And you can also follow me on Twitter if you like doing those kind of things. I post a lot on technology and on the science of learning. So thank you very much once again, and do take care.